Good afternoon and welcome to this briefing at the Jerusalem Press Club. My name is Talia Dekel. This week, after 11 months of constant Hezbollah attacks into northern Israel, Israel stepped up its campaign on the organization, mostly in southern Lebanon, but also deeper in the country. As a reminder to listeners, on October 8th, one day after the horrific assault by Hamas on southern Israel, Hezbollah decided to begin shelling Israel's north in solidarity with the Palestinians of Gaza. The IDF, embroiled in a war for which it was not prepared, responded with limited strikes and essentially complied with a game of equations set by Hassan Nala. Tens of thousands of Israelis living in the north have evacuated their homes and have become internally displaced, while others have been murdered by rockets and UAVs. For the Iranian patrons of both Hamas and Hezbollah, this strategy is optimal, wearing down the Israeli military and social cohesion while slowly gnawing at Israel's international legitimacy. But last week, something finally changed. Where we are headed is now unclear. Our special guest today is Major General in Reserves Yaakov Amidror, former director of the National Security Council and former head of the research department in military intelligence at the IDF. Today, Amidror is a senior fellow at JINSA, the Jewish Institute for National Security of America. Hello, Yaakov, and thank you so much for joining us today.
And in Jerusalem,
Institute for Strategy and Security.
Strategy and Security, JISS, yes.
Of course. So according to the latest news reports, there is speculation that close to half of Hezbollah's missile arsenal has been destroyed. This would be, of course, a massive blow to the group that's been rearming since 2006. Do you agree with this assessment?
No, I think it's a mistake. No, it's not an assessment. Someone said that half of the accurate missiles of Hezbollah had been destroyed. This is a very little part of the whole arsenal of Hezbollah. So we are not even close to 50% destruction of the missiles and the rockets of Hezbollah. If that was achieved, it's a good result, but it's not even the beginning of what should be destroyed. But I think that the last 2 weeks were very good for the Israeli side, beginning with the allegedly Israeli operation of the communication system, which became a trap for so many members of Hezbollah. And remember, you don't give this communication to the ordinary low-grade, low people in the system. You give it to the medium and up. And the fact that the ambassador of Iran was injured by the pager, by the way, in the Arab world, they call it Idel pager. It's very significant because it means that it was in the hands of very prominent guys in the system if the ambassador himself had it. That was the beginning. Then the cellular phones, then the elimination of Ibrahim Akil, someone which I ran after him 30 or 40 years ago. And now he passed away with the whole group of commanders of Erdogan forces. Very accurate and very important elimination of capabilities. If you lose the whole structure of the Erdogan is less dangerous. And continue with the success of hitting all these missiles and rockets. I don't know if you saw the pictures from these places, but in some of them, the secondary explosions continue for minutes after the strike was ended, because it was full of missiles and rockets, and that exploded afterwards. So I think that all in all, it's a huge success, eliminating the commanders and the leadership of Hezbollah. hitting very important targets inside Lebanon. But still, we have to be very modest. It's only the beginning. It will take long time to eliminate the capabilities of Hezbollah. And we are just in the beginning. So this is the situation. The question is, why now? Is very important, I think. First, it is towards the end of the first stage of the war in Gaza. Now the IDF can take out of Gaza many forces that couldn't take before that. The Air Force is totally dedicated to other targets than Gaza Strip. The ability of Hamas to join the Hezbollah, as they planned probably in the beginning, is almost none. Hamas is irrelevant to the war. They can kill Israelis in Gaza, and we will have to clean the area in the next year probably, and from all the remnants. But for the war itself, it's irrelevant. No one asked how Hamas will retaliate from Gaza after the assassination of Hania and Mohammed Def. Why? Hamas in Gaza is not relevant anymore to this kind of threats towards Israel. And I think that the attacks of the IDF, based on the huge amount of targets that the IDF collected through the years as part of the efforts to be better prepared for war in Lebanon, is now we see the fruits of this effort. And that will continue. And as the Chief of Staff said, we will intensify our efforts to hit more targets in the future. And both sides are playing here with the very carefully not to cross some lines that might lead the other side to push, to feel that he's in the corner and to push for something even more extensive than that. I mean, Tel Aviv versus Dahya, ground forces in South Lebanon, and so on and so forth. So that will happen probably in the future. This is my assessment, but now both sides try not to get to this point. And the IDF has huge number of targets to continue that way for, I don't know, months.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And I'd like to drill a little bit deeper into how this intensification might look. But just before we do, you mentioned the targeted killings of Hezbollah commanders. Surely the IDF has some sort of indications with regards to Hassan Nasrallah's whereabouts. We've seen that when it wants to, it can take out leaders in other areas. Is there a reason in your assessment that he's still being allowed to lead the organization?
First of all, I don't know if the IDF has the ability to kill him. And if yes, I'm not sure that this is the right time to do it. Because if you want to continue the situation as it is now, but having someone from the other side who can reach a closing of the fire, I think that Nasrallah is the guy with whom to have an agreement. But if you ask me if the IDF will have the ability to kill him, it cannot be excluded. It should not be excluded.
Okay, one journalist is asking whether it's possible that Hezbollah can recover missile hardware. As you mentioned, they still have huge arsenals within the Islamic regime. And do they actually have the capacity to recover? I'm just trying to kind of translate the question, to recover new commanders. If the commanders that were neutralized, can they be replaced by others?
First of all, the answer is yes, but those who will come substitute to those which had been killed or neutralized by the Pager's accident, none of them will have the experience, the connections, the relations. It's younger generation and with less experience, of course. And remember, Hezbollah built group of people which are leading the military side of Hezbollah and the political side of Hezbollah together, it is almost the same people in the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years, since the domination of Nasrallah and even before that. I know Karki, which they said that he was not died, he was not killed. I know him since I was the intelligence officer of the Northern Command in the 80s. I mean, it's almost 40 years. So yes, they can find people will go to the shoes of those which had been killed or neutralized, but for sure it will not be the same level of experience, knowledge, and, if I may say, leadership.
One journalist is asking whether the Northern Front will remain in Lebanese territory only, as we've seen that other elements have been involved, such as Iraq sending over a UAV. We also know about Hezbollah's huge presence in Syria. Are we going to see it just between Israel and Lebanon, or could this develop further?
Israel does not have an interest to broaden the fronts. Hezbollah is enough on the plate. We don't have to add to that. But if someone in Syria decides that he wants to join the party, Israel will be more than ready to find answers to this challenge. Iraq is a different story. It's far away. The spread within the Iraqi forces, it is not so easy. The same is about the Houthis in Yemen. We are not going to have a duel of launching missiles into Yemen. We will have to make a decision if we are retaliating by one big operation like the one which we did in Hudaydah, or to find such a target in Iraq, which is even, in a way, it's easier because it's closer to Israel. In a way, it's more complicated because it is within the Iraqi system. I think that as long as possible, Israel should concentrate on Hezbollah. If there will be a need, we can consider it, but I think that the longer time that we can dedicate everything to hit Hezbollah, the better.
And of course, this is a question that comes up in almost every conversation. Are we going to see a ground incursion? Is Israel capable of meeting its goals, in particular getting the civilians back to their homes without sending troops in?
If someone from the outside, Americans, the French, whoever, will not have the ability to bring an agreement within which Hezbollah will remain north of the Litani, probably we have to send the ground forces to clean the area from the launching pads of Hezbollah, to build kind of security zone in which we will not let Hezbollah members to go in. We will have to build a system in which we are forcing the regime there, and not UNIFIL, which is a joke, a sad joke, but a joke that didn't provide even one report about Hezbollah weapon systems coming to the south, leave alone what they did. So Israel will have to find a way to guarantee that no Hezbollah forces will be in the south, from the Litani south, and probably that cannot be achieved but by a political agreement that will be monitored by Israel or Israeli forces on the ground. So one of them will happen.
Does this include the creation of a buffer zone between Israel and Lebanon? Is this something that you see as a result?
Yes, as one who graduated during the security zone in Lebanon, it probably something similar in the geography, not in the content, because we don't have a South Lebanese army, and it will be the IDF probably that we'll have to monitor the area and to make sure that and to guarantee that no Hezbollah forces will go down south of the Litani.
When we spoke about a year ago, you told us to prepare for a war that would last probably a year in Gaza, and with your permission, at some point, we'll also get.
And you didn't believe me.
Well, I personally think it was as much as we could take at the time, and in fact, we were likely needing to prepare for something longer, but it was the only thing that our ears would be capable of hearing at the time. So the question that begs now is, putting the Gaza issue aside right now, because I think there is a lot to talk about whether we are achieving our goals there or not, given the fact that there are still hostages, of course. How long, especially with the ground incursion, does the Israeli public need to prepare itself for whatever comes next? Remembering the Israeli,
We have to understand that we need another year to clean the remnants of Hamas from Gaza and to find the hostages and to release them. But it will take probably a year. Less forces, no air force, and so on and so forth. But still, Israeli soldiers will clean Gaza. No one will do the job for us during the next year. And the war with Hezbollah, in this kind or another, will take a long time. Is it 6 months or 12 months? I don't know. Very much depends on the efforts that Israel can bring to the table. And we are after a long war in Gaza, so it's not so easy. But this is clear for me that this is not going to be clear-cut short war.
What is the best case scenario when Israel takes its decisions with regards to the north? What do we expect to see from there when we finally will be able to say we've achieved our goals? And a follow-up question. Sorry, go ahead.
This, I think, is the most important question. What is our goal in Lebanon? What will satisfy us? I think that there are two different issues. One, as I said, to be sure, to guarantee that no plan like the 7th of October in Gaza can be done in the future by Hezbollah. And the meaning of it, that the South Lebanon will be without any presence of Hezbollah. And we will have to make a demarcation of the map where we think is the line. And from this line south, we will have to be very active to prevent any attempt of Hezbollah to build any military capability. I'm not speaking about Beirut, I'm not speaking about the Valley, I'm speaking about South Lebanon to prevent another 7th of October. The other goal is more complicated because Israel's biggest mistake since the beginning of the century was that we allowed Hezbollah to grow to be a beast. I thought personally 2 years ago that we have to launch a war against Hezbollah. No one bought my assessment. But the beginning of the mistake is not 2 years ago. That is the end of the mistake. The beginning of the mistake is that since the retreat from Lebanon, and even before that, in 2006, Israel was addicted to the quietness and was not ready to make any efforts to prevent Hezbollah to build its military capabilities. The missiles, the accurate missiles, the long-range missiles, everything came, and we knew that these are the stages. We didn't make anything. We were very active in Syria. We succeeded to prevent the Iranians from building another element of the ring of fire in Syria. The big dream of Soleimani to have equivalent to Hezbollah under direct control of Iran in Syria was not materialized because we were very active in Syria. We were very passive in Lebanon. That should be changed. And to change that, Israel will have to stripping Hezbollah from its capability to the level in which in the future Hezbollah cannot deter the IDF by making the ability to do something. The Israeli says, okay, if that's what we might get, we don't want to begin. No, we have to be in a position that in the future, whatever they have is not deter us from destroying their military capability. For how long? For eternity. We cannot allow, not in Gaza and not in Lebanon, we will not let Iran to build the proxies and which were part of the ring of fire around Israel. That will not happen again. I hope that Israel will be strong enough to say it, to do it, and to implement it. It's not easy. It's not always, the population don't like it. You have to go from between the wars for some operations, and it's not easy. But if there is a lesson from the 7th of October, this is the most important one. Israel should not allow the proxies of Iran, the terrorist organizations, Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, and Hamas, to build military capabilities near the borders of Israel, not in Lebanon and not in Gaza. In Gaza, it's easier. Why? Because Gaza is an enclave, an island. We went in, we choked the organization. We killed, I don't know, 40, 50, 60, 70% of its people, probably more. Many injured, and they will not come back to the battlefield. And they don't have the ability to produce, to manufacture, and now to smuggle through Philadelphia. That cannot be done in Lebanon. It's too big. What we can achieve in Lebanon is to destroy the whole infrastructure to the line that the IDF ground forces will get, and to destroy the ability of Hezbollah to launch those amount of rockets and missiles that it had before the war, to the level in which we say, okay, that's what they can, we are continuing to destroy it. It is not going to be an easy, cut, clear, short war. Not at all.
So we understand that, but assuming that Israel is able to do this, assuming that it's able to get rid of all this infrastructure and get rid of Hezbollah in and of itself, what's stopping Iran from using the next 20 years, as it did since the IDF's withdrawal, from building up another proxy on our borders, or maybe even a little bit farther? Like, what's the end game here? What do you think Iran will be doing next?
First of all, we have to take care for those who are closer to Israel. If they build something in Iraq, it's another story. It's like Iran. It's 1,000 kilometers, 500 kilometers away. It's exchange of ballistic missiles. It's another story. It is not the numbers, and it is not the ability to strike like in 7th of October. This is something that Israel will have to deal with, is to build defensive system and capabilities to reach those places with our missiles and all other means, but not in Lebanon, not in Gaza. And if they try what they tried to do in Syria, and they didn't succeed, this is something that we should prevent. What we did in Syria, we should do in Lebanon, and even more so in Gaza. In Gaza, it's easy because it's very close. It's 10 kilometers here and there. So we will have to go. Gaza will be like Area A in the West Bank. And with Lebanon, we will continue to strike all these military capabilities of Hamas, and those which Iran might bring through Syria into Lebanon. We will have to prevent it. We will have to be very active. It is not going to be ended with just bombing in Lebanon. No, we will continue to be very active in Syria as well.
So you mentioned the French a bit earlier, and there is a question that needs to be asked in terms of the international community, the international players, Israel's allies. The U.S., of course, sent more troops to the region since the latest developments, but we haven't seen any public support for Israel against Hezbollah from other allies, particularly from Europe. as we did following the 7th of October, despite the fact that all relevant parties understand or should understand that Israel's current war didn't happen in a vacuum. Do you have any explanation for this? We know that President Macron even argued with Prime Minister Netanyahu over the current situation. This is despite France's own history in the region.
First of all, the question is not to me, it's to them. They are those who act very peculiar, let's say. I'm very gentle in my description of their behavior. I think that from the moral point of view, it says something about Europe, not about us. And it does not surprise me, knowing some of these countries. Not all of them, but some of them. They lost the moral compass. And with all due respect, Israel will continue to take care for our security. It is the obligation of the government of Israel and not the government of any other country. And they have to ask themselves questions about the moral level of their attitude towards these events. When in 11 months, almost 10,000 rockets and missiles had been launched by Hezbollah into Israel without any provocation. So what should be the reaction of Israel?
Right.
What are the expectations of those who spoke with the Prime Minister?
Israel will indeed have to defend itself, but of course we are heavily dependent on the dynamics of global politics. Do you think that the American administration still has gravitas, still has influence over the next moves that might come from our enemies? Is there still something to depend on that end?
I think that the Americans understand that they don't have any influence on Hezbollah. Mr. Hochstein spoke with Hezbollah indirectly for so many months and achieved nothing. And I think that they understand that they don't have any influence. Maybe for the Iranians, they are taking into consideration the Americans much more than Hezbollah, ironically, because they understand the difference between Israel versus Iran or Israel with America versus Iran. And let's say, what will be the reaction of the Iranians? It's a big question, the big elephant in the room. I don't think the Americans think that they have any influence or leverage on Hezbollah. And anyhow, let's be very frank. The security of the state of Israel is not the responsibility of the United States of America. We are more than happy to have their support. We understand that many values connected us, and the Americans basically are pro when it is a democracy like Israel versus dictatorships like Hamas and Islamic Jihad and Hezbollah. They are in the right side of the equation, but at the end, the responsibility for the security of Israel is on the government of Israel.
We are almost out of time, but there are still more questions coming in, as I promised.
I'm ready to answer.
Okay, one journalist is asking if you can tell us or remind us what year Hezbollah acquired its advanced long-range missiles.
Advanced what?
Long-range missiles.
Oh, it's many years ago. It's many years ago. In 2006, during the war, they had two kinds of rockets, which one was, I think, 60 kilometers, and one was more than 100 kilometers. Russian, Syrian-made, by the way, Syrian-made. Mm-hmm. Today, you could see that they have Russian-made missiles for 100 kilometers, and they're getting everything, or directly or indirectly. I believe that indirectly through Syria and Iran from Russia. But many of the weapon systems that they have are either produced by the Syrians or by the Russians.
Okay, we talked about the US, we talked about Europe, but one journalist is asking, what about the role of the moderate Sunni states, with whom obviously Israel has started making headway in the last few years, understanding that Iran is not just Israel's problem in the region? Do you think that they are engaged, or should they be engaged more in preventing the deterioration of this war?
I think that in those Arab states, many people, mainly in the leadership, are praying in their mosques for the success of Israel. They understand that the Muslim Brotherhood branch called Hamas and the proxies of Iran called Hezbollah are endangering their own states and systems. So I think that if at the end of the day in heaven, in the sky, they will collect all the prayers. They will find many Jews who prayed for Israel's success, but they will find many Arabs which are doing the same. They cannot do it publicly, but in four eyes between them and their God, they are praying for the success of Israel.
Very clear. Just one last question. We can't really leave without finishing the discussion on Gaza, although most of the attention right now, also of the global media, is in developments in the north. You said in an interview with Globes, with Hebrew paper, that Hamas today is a signpost with little capability to show for, and also discussing whether Sinwar is alive or not is merely symbolic, and that most of the evacuees from the kibbutzim have returned home. Do you think that the government's focus on Lebanon right now delivers a final blow to ceasefire talks, to the hostages coming home? Where are we left really in the next steps in Gaza?
I don't know, because there are some views that I must confess, I don't understand the logic, but they claim that the big blow for Hezbollah might lead those who still remain in Gaza to the conclusion that it is better to have a deal. I don't know. What for sure should be done, as I explained in this paper, Hamas today has two assets. That's all. One are the Israelis, which he keeps under the ground and other places, the hostages. This is one asset. The second one is the ability of Sinwar, if he's still alive, to get out of the tunnel and to say, we won, I am alive. And if he will be ready, he will be even V for victory. This is why I think that we should kill Sinwar, so it will be clear that Hamas is a hollow organization with one big asset, the Israeli hostages, but irrelevant from all the military point of views. How it will influence the decision makers of Hamas, I don't know. I don't know who will be the decision maker if Sinwar will be killed. Israel should make all the efforts that it can, in intelligence-wise, forces on the ground, whatever, to get to the hostages. If we can reach a deal, we should reach a deal. And the question is how to do it. For one thing is very important, not to stop the war in Lebanon, because we pay huge price up till now. I don't know if you know, but 1,000 buildings had been destroyed in the previous stage, and many will probably be destroyed in this stage. We have to achieve a situation in which the refugees from the north are ready to go back to their homes. And for that, we have to push Hezbollah to the north and to reduce the ability of Hezbollah to wage war against Israel by firing rockets and missiles. And as I said, it will take time, but Israel should not stop and to do whatever is needed in Gaza, and it's needed, as I say, to find the hostages and to release them. Parallel to the efforts in Lebanon, it's not easy, but we should do it.
Okay, very clear. Major General in Reserves, Yaakov Amidror, Senior Fellow at JINSA and at JISS, also former National Security Council Chief and former Head of Research at the IDF's Department of Military Intelligence. Thank you again so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to my colleague, Jonathan Beck, for facilitating this webinar. Goodbye, everybody.